Hi, this is Chris Skoczynski. I'm going to tell you the story of how I taught Hillary Clinton the Macarena at the 1996 Democratic National Convention, which was held in Chicago. This was the convention to renominate Bill Clinton and Al Gore for the presidency. There were two deaf delegates that were going to be part of the convention, and that's why we were hired, as well as for public access or television purposes. So we were on board from noon to 10 every day. Obviously, the better speakers were held into the evening so they could be on primetime TV. But they needed something to do during the day, during the regular speakers, where they talk about the platform and other kinds of convention issues. And so what they did was they played music in between speakers. One of the very popular songs that year was the Macarena. And so they played the Macarena to pass the time. And because we were standing up on the stage at the time, waiting for the next speaker to begin, we decided to start doing the Macarena. So we were doing the Macarena, and it became a thing. Everybody in the audience started to learn it by watching us, and then they started to really anticipate the dance coming up, and they just loved it. And so it started out as a daytime thing and then turned into an evening thing where we were actually televised and projected on the Jumbotron at the convention, including the night that the convention ended and everybody had been renominated. And that's where we taught Hillary Clinton actually how to do the Macarena. She was about maybe 15 feet away from us. It was a really amazing experience. Sometimes it's very difficult to do platform interpreting because it's sometimes hard to hear the speaker, but we really lucked out here at the convention because we could actually read the teleprompter. So we knew exactly what they were going to say before they were going to say it. And so we looked like we really knew what we were talking about. We had spent a long time preparing for this convention, practicing signs and agreeing on signs. And it was lucky that all of us on the dream team were Democrats because it was very easy to ramp up our enthusiasm as well. One of the best things that happened was getting to know the Secret Service because we were normally standing very close to them before we would get up on stage. And we saw them talking into their shoulders every once in a while. And they told us the background of things that were happening. And so the night that Al Gore had been nominated, we got up on stage and we saw all the barricades, several levels of metal barricades, and then lots of Secret Service milling around and being the security part of that. And then, so the next night was Thursday night, and we thought, and it was going to be Bill Clinton being renominated, and we thought, oh, what's going to happen for security here? And we get there, and there's nothing, not a metal barricade, nothing. There's just like a space in between where the delegates were standing and the steps that went up the stage. And we were pretty shocked. And then we talked to the Secret Service and we saw one guy saying to his shoulder, there's a hole in Delaware. And we see somebody come and stand in the front row where the Delaware delegation was. It turns out everybody in that front row was a Secret Service person that was dressed like a delegate. And those people had been stationed throughout the convention hall. So at the end of the convention, on the last night, after they've been renominated, there's going to be the balloon drop. And those balloons had been up in a net the whole time we were there, Monday through Thursday. And so I was really anticipating that because I'd seen it on TV and I thought it was pretty cool. And so here comes the moment and the balloons drop. And of course, they're not filled with helium because they need to drop. And there's thousands and thousands and thousands of them pouring from the ceiling. What I didn't realize was there's no place for those balloons to go. So what happened was that they start to pile up. And I happened to be standing next to Helen Thomas, who was a very famous reporter for the UPI at the time, and she's about this big. And the balloons started to fill up and swallow her up, and she started to have a panic attack. And so she asked us if we could help her. And so we had these Gore Clinton buttons that we took off and then started to poke at the balloons to kind of get them away from her. Unfortunately, poking at those kinds of balloons sounds just like gunfire. And so the Secret Service was not very pleased with us. Plus, whatever they filled those balloons with was not helium. It smelled a little bit like smoke. So we sort of alarmed the Secret Service, but we explained what we had been doing. But one of the best things about this was that my parents lived in Chicago, and they would go to a pizza parlor every Wednesday night. And the Wednesday of the convention, there they are sitting at their favorite pizza restaurant and watching the convention on television, and they see their daughter on the Jumbotron interpreting and doing the Macarena. And I really think my parents could have died and gone to heaven right there. They were that proud of me.